What's going on, guys? Josh here, and I've got some pretty cool news. I finally used the remaining balance of my Chase Ultimate Rewards points, and now I don't really have a huge reason to keep open the Chase Sapphire Preferred, though whether that means upgrading it to the Sapphire Reserve or downgrading it to a Freedom Flex is still not quite clear. Anyway, that is not really the point of this video. And today, I want to share with you all how I was able to redeem all of my Chase points, a handful of Bilt points, and a good amount of Hilton points to book a really fun and awesome trip to Europe in 2024. So when we're taking a look at all the different flight options available, it's pretty easy to get overwhelmed. I definitely have been overwhelmed by this before, and especially when I kind of cared too much about the maximum value of my points, right? In my experience, I have been trying really hard to not let it affect where I can and cannot go. So you'll notice with these redemptions that they are below 2 cents per point, and one of them is actually below 1.5 cents per point when it comes to using Chase Ultimate Rewards points. So my fiancée and I are going to go to Europe with some of our friends, and let's face it, and they're team cash back, and still others are barely in the credit card game to begin with, and that is perfectly fine, I think. Of course, if somebody got into the credit card space, like there's all sorts of free things you can get from it, and there's some really great rewards for using these tools responsibly. But at the end of the day, if I can get a redemption to and from Europe and not have to pay any real money outside of my taxes and fees, I'm gonna take it. Even if it means not taking the best possible flight and taking a flight that my friends want to pay cash for. So with all that in mind, my fiancé and I and our friends ended up booking a Swiss Air economy flight through United. So they were still able to book through United because it's a Star Alliance partner, paying cash, but we were able to move our points over and book through United on Swiss Air. It cost us each 43,900 United miles or Chase points because it transfers 1-to-1. So, of course, you can probably do better. There's probably a 30K flight out there somewhere, but we had a very specific date and time that we wanted to arrive at our destination, so decided it was okay. We also paid a little over $23 in taxes and fees. Now I should probably mention where we're going, right? Well, we'll be taking the Swiss Air flight from Washington, D.C. out of Dulles International Airport, and we're going to fly to Paris, Charles de Gaulle, with a brief 2-ish hour layover in Zurich, Switzerland, hence Swiss Air. For this flight, my fiancée and I booked separately, so she was using her own United account and Chase Ultimate Rewards account, completely separate from mine, so we both pushed our transfers to United, Mileage Plus, and then we booked separately because we had enough points to do so. The same cannot be said on our return flight. We will actually be flying out of Lisbon, coming home, and for that flight, we had to call Chase and connect her Ultimate Rewards account to mine so that she could move her points to mine, and then I could move mine out to my United account to book for the both of us. The only reason we had to do this is because you can't actually use one United Mileage Plus account for two different Chase Ultimate Rewards accounts. That flight going home cost us the exact same amount of Chase points or United miles, 43,900. And it was about the same in taxes and fees as well. I think like $23 and change. So again, not the best, but we're going to get a free vacation out of it. So I'm very satisfied with how those redemptions went. I was going into it fully prepared to pay cash for the way back, and I was just like, oh, this is gonna be, hurting the wallet a little bit, right? But thankfully, we were able to find this redemption and at least not pay very much out of pocket. And this flight is booked directly with United, so it is a United operated flight. It's also nonstop, which is helpful, especially going home right before going back to the work week. For this flight, we transferred 79,000 Chase Ultimate Rewards points, again from my account, and to pay the difference, we also had to transfer 9,000 Bilt points. I got the Bilt card back in June of this year, and because I live in a fairly high cost of living area, my rent is pretty outrageous. But on the bright side, it means I get to earn a ton of points on my rent spend. So it was only a few months of paying rent, and it turned into a small part of a free ticket to Europe, or in this case, from Europe. And because I know you might be interested about the cents per point for these flights, our first flight came out to 1.48 cents per point. It was about $650 at the time of booking. I recently looked again and the flight is just gone, so it must have sold out, so I can't give an updated figure of what that might be. And then for our return flight, it was about $200 more expensive at $850, and that gives us a slightly better value of 1.82 cents per point. But you know, on the bright side, they do both beat out the Sapphire Preferred's guaranteed 1.25 cents per point in the Chase travel portal. So you might be wondering, well, what's in between Paris and Lisbon? And that's a good question. My friends and I will be going to Paris first, spending a few days there. My fiancée and her friends will go and see Taylor Swift, actually. They're going to a concert there, which is why we had to choose those very specific dates. But I'm okay with that. It's not like we can tell Taylor Swift, hey, can you change your concert date for us so we can get better points value? So it's fine with me. In fact, originally they were just planning to go to see Taylor Swift in Paris, and I was like, can I come? So we ended up making a bit of an extended Europe trip out of it. In Paris, we'll be staying at an Airbnb, again, because not everybody has a ton of like hotel points floating around, which is totally cool. And that came out to about $314 for me, which is a little bit pricey, but for a few nights in Paris, I think it was pretty decent, especially if we compare it to like hotel prices per night. After they see Taylor Swift and I figure out something fun to do in Paris, we will then take the train to Brussels, Belgium. Brussels is a very special place to me. I hold it very dearly because I lived there for about 5 to 6 months back in the first half of last year. When we're in Brussels, we will also be staying at an Airbnb. You know, guys, I cannot recommend Brussels enough. It is criminally underrated because if you look on a map, it's like right in between Paris, Amsterdam, and London. They form a triangle around it. And then, of course, you have all the German cities that are close by as well. So it definitely flies under the radar, in my opinion. But if you are ever in Paris, consider taking the Eurostar or a different high-speed train up to Brussels. And if you have a chance to visit the other cities in the country of Belgium, like Antwerp, I think you'll have a really great time. And I'm going to use this moment to shout out the Venture Capital Discord run by the awesome Anthony Venture. I will leave a link in the description below to join, and if you do join, feel free to message me to talk about European travel. It's one of my favorite things to talk about, so I'd love to hear from you. After our time in Brussels, my fiance and I will wave goodbye to our friends who will be heading home to the US, and then we will fly to Porto. And to do that, unfortunately, we had to connect through Lisbon because there weren't very many Brussels to Porto direct flights, as you might imagine. We'll be taking TAP Air Portugal, and we'll be flying in economy for about $160 when you convert from euro to US dollars at the current conversion rates. Not too bad for a short flight in Europe, I would say. Though it's nothing like those Ryanair 10 euro flights, but we couldn't find any that would suit our needs for this trip. Now, if you know anything about Porto, then you know it has some really beautiful landscapes. Two of my closest friends here in DC took a trip to Porto and Lisbon, I believe, this past summer, and seeing all the pictures that they took there, I immediately added the country of Portugal and specifically the city of Porto to my travel list for 2024. And this is where I was able to use 100,000 Hilton points. I earned those points from the 130k sign-up bonus on the Hilton Honors business credit card. We had just finished up reaching the minimum spend and getting the points. Actually, like after we booked the TAP flights, we did use the card to book those flights in order to meet the rest of the minimum spend. And once we did that, we were able to knock off the price of hotels in Porto, which was pretty fantastic, and it really helped us afford this trip a little bit easier. And if you're interested in the cents per point, it is not exceptional. It was 0.46 cents per point, which is quite lower than the recommended 0.8 target for Hilton points, but at the same time, we weren't really going to be able to go to Porto comfortably if we had spent actual money on the booking. I'd rather not dip into our budget to do this, so it was really nice just to use the point. And we still have a little over 30k left over if you include the points earned from spend. And because the card comes with gold status, it's very possible that we could get a room upgrade if they have one available for us. Though I'm not quite sure if they will, since we're going like mid-May. It might be starting the tourist season, but we'll have to look into that. Once we're done in Porto, we will take a flight down to Lisbon to get ready for our flight home. And we also booked that on tap, which set us back about $80 each. The good news is, though, my fiancée was able to use her free night certificate on her Marriott Bonvoy Boundless for one night in Lisbon before we leave the next day to go back to the US. And since we were going to use a free night certificate, we figured why not leave a little bit earlier and try to see some things that Lisbon might have to offer. The focus of our trip is really going to be Porto, but sometimes if you're going to be using these awards, might as well just take a look at what's around us. So that's our itinerary. We'll be spending a little over 10 days in Europe altogether, and it's going to be a really nice break. It's the first time I've traveled internationally since, living abroad in 2022. While nothing will ever top that travel year ever, it's going to be nice just to get back to Europe. I think I really do miss my time living there, and I could definitely see myself moving back to Brussels someday. Also, with my current career path, it may lead me over there, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. What would you have done differently if you were in my shoes? Would you have gone maybe a different points currency? I'd love to know, so please leave a comment below. And if you've been to Portugal or France or Belgium, please let me know as well. And especially if you've been to Porto and Lisbon, I could really use any recommendations that you might have for me. So again, you can either reach out to me on Discord using the link below, or just leave a comment and I'll make sure to get back to you. I appreciate each and every one of you as we continue to build out a community together on this channel. I've been Josh. Take care, and I'll see you next time.